Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Lori Taylor. I am your host here at the Produce Moms Podcast. Today, we are welcoming Chad Ogden. Chad is with Sunrise Logistics. How supply chain and logistics got thrown into the forefront of consumer awareness over the last few months. And, Chad has been in logistics for 15 years. 7 years of that, he's been focused on produce specifically, working at Sunrise Logistics. Sunrise Logistics is part of the Four Seasons family of companies. Chad is their Director of Business Development at Sunrise Logistics. He's our guest today. We're thrilled to dive into the topic of supply chain with you, Chad. Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. We don't hear that very often, that people are excited to dive into logistics.
Well, you know what? We've talked about this, Chad. My husband he works in a logistics, and so we talk about it in my household, and I have learned after hosting this show time and time again, the more folks I speak to in the produce industry, the more aware I become that logistics really are. Yeah. I mean, it's the heart and soul of our industry in a way. And I learned that too in my days at the sales desk when I was working at wholesale distribution. And then if I put on my mom hat or my consumer hat, and, the more I learn about the produce industry and the growing operations, it's how we have produce 365 days a year is because of advancements in logistics. It's, this is a seasonal industry. And advancements in logistics have been able to provide us with year-round availability of all the fruits and vegetables, all the things. So it's I do smile when you say that people don't care. They probably don't necessarily. They probably didn't realize how much they care. But when you think about that, like all those different things, you're like, yeah, I do like eating, strawberries in January, and that's really only possible because of good logistics. So it's really exciting to welcome you, and I look forward to our discussion today.
Yeah, thank you. So I believe you mentioned this before, but are we the first, is Sunrise Logistics the first logistics company to be on your podcast?
We are, yes. And, it's...
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And I'm glad that you and I have had the opportunity to connect, and I know some other folks at the Four Seasons family of companies. So this is going to be a great show. And that being said, tell us about Sunrise Logistics and the history of the company and your role.
Yeah, so we are a third-party logistics provider. We're based in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, which a lot of people know that as Amish country. So we have a very large Amish and Mennonite population in this area. We're about an hour to an hour and a half northwest of Philadelphia. And we have a very large refrigerated warehouse, which we share within the Four Seasons family of companies. As you mentioned, we are a part of a family of companies, but Sunrise Logistics specifically focuses in on providing third-party logistics and transportation services for people mostly in the produce industry, but we do dabble in other perishable products. Some things that are a big craze right now, your kombuchas and different health drinks, they're in that same supply chain. They fit very well with the produce supply chain, your meats and cheeses, prepackaged items. So we service all of them. Basically, if you're looking for a refrigerated supply chain, we're a solution for you.
Right.
I came on a little less than 7 years ago. I had a background with J.B. Hunt Transport, which is a very large transportation company. I started there right out of college. And I was just looking for a change from the corporate world, looking to maybe get into the private sector, and was very fortunate to find Sunrise Logistics. it was an opportunity to build something. So that's a big part of our story is, Sunrise Logistics has existed since 2006 is when we were formed. But the past 4 or 5 years, we have just gone light years ahead in our capability. A lot of that's been an investment in people specifically, and then technology has been a really big one for our organization. And sometimes I feel like technology can be a little bit left behind in the produce industry. I'm sure you can relate and have some stories during your time in the industry, but that's something that I'm really happy and pleased I'm a part of an organization that believes in investing in technology and people.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's got to feel good. And it's a family-owned company. I think that also is, definitely worthy of mentioning because all of our loyal listeners know I often speak to the fact that if you're looking for a good family-owned, story in business, look no further than the produce department. And it's great that even, the supply chain's part of that too.
Yeah, we are. We're still first generation owned. David Hollinger started our organization, the family of companies, back in 1976. And what's been great is we're now second generation. Jason Hollinger just in the past couple of years took over as president and CEO. And he spent his time in the business, really understands the industry, and has just shown a great ability to lead our organization into the next phase, right? So we're constantly morphing, constantly changing. That's, I've had conversations with him in the past as we've implemented technology over the past couple of years. And I said, man, I can't wait till we calm down and we get back to regular business. I long for the day that he looked at me, he's like, yeah, I don't think that's a thing for us. Like, we're always going to be pushing and moving forward and embracing change and saying, hey, what's next? What can we do better? What can we invest in? Whether that is technology, people, or, we have an appetite to invest in new locations, right? We have the one location in Ephrata, Pennsylvania right now. We partner with a customer of ours for some capability down in Miami, Florida, which is great, but we have an appetite for the rest of the country. You look at the growing regions and the opportunity to consolidate freight and offer cost-effective transportation solutions for people in the produce industry. There's not a lot of companies out there that have a big appetite for it. And the major players that can do it, they don't have that family-owned feel or culture like we do here at the family of companies, the Four Seasons family of companies. So I think that's a big goal of ours, is to, have the capability of a very large organization, but have the feel of that family-owned, very intimate relationship with our customers.
Right. So, Chad, for our loyal listeners of this podcast, in episode 41, if we want to throw it way back in the archives, folks, we had Britton Ladd on, and he is, very well respected and renowned as a true thought leader, especially in the world of logistics and retailing, specifically grocery retail. So, Britton was quoted in episode 41 saying, retailing comes down to two things: marketing and logistics. So tell us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I went back and I listened to that podcast to make sure I was educated on what you're referencing there. And he's a smart guy. I agreed with pretty much everything he was saying, as did you during the podcast. But it is, I've used this before to say that, you can grow the greatest apple, the best tasting apple in the world, but if you can't get it to the end consumer in a cost-effective way, they're never going to get to taste it. So your family's going to love it. That's going to be great. But, the end consumer, where you're trying to get it to, you have to have that supply chain developed. And it's been amazing in my 7 years. And again, you have experience in this, of how poorly some supply chains are, and poorly set up some supply chains are in the produce industry. And it's just shocking to me, because that's my background, obviously. But people are so passionate about that commodity, right? Whether it's an apple or a peach, whatever it is, they're passionate about growing it. And that's what their focus is. And then logistics and supply chain always comes last. It's always a secondary thought, or very frequently. And that's, it's too bad, because we want to get those commodities out there. We talk about healthy eating. I feel like, generationally, we're having a shift of hopefully going away from some of the fast food, the fried foods, and, we're getting our kids to eat more healthy. But if we can't get those commodities to them, that's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And get them to them at the optimal temperature, the optimal handling. I mean, these products that you are transporting are highly perishable. And there's, the way you handle and care for the product directly correlates with the consumer's experience in terms of taste, texture, flavor, etc.
Exactly. Yeah, it's reflect on another conversation you and I had, or how we got connected, was through somebody that does something that's highly perishable, a customer of ours and a partner of yours in Crunch Pack.
Right.
They have an awesome commodity, right? They slice these apples in the state of Washington. Mm-hmm. They package them up in a cool Mickey Mouse head package, put some cheese and some pretzels in there in one of the packaging, and they have to ship that all the way to the East Coast. That apple's been sliced. And then It has to get to the East Coast, comes through our facility, and then we are then just taking it to the warehouse of whoever they're selling it to. It didn't even get to the end consumer yet. It still has another leg to get there. But that's something we take pride in at Sunrise Logistics, is that we can take something that's that perishable, and not just a piece of produce, but a sliced piece of produce, and we can get it to the end consumer, like you said, in a safe manner. Temps, all the things that are important, and then most importantly, cost effective, right? Sure. If it's not cost effective, they're not going to be able to stay in business. Yeah, no, you can't add a ton of cost. The growers need their returns, and consumers, the food needs to be accessible and affordable. So you're absolutely right in that. I'm glad you brought it up. So I think we've kind of talked about this, but I really would love to, it's been touched on with really throughout this conversation, but I want to take a deeper dive into how, Chad, how is logistics and the supply chain just critical to fresh produce access in the United States? Yeah. So think about where it all comes from, right? We've got moving regions based on different climates and different. The harvest follows the sun. Of the year. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. And then what a lot of people, I didn't think about this before I was in produce, but a large majority is coming into our ports, right? So we do a lot of container drayage out of the ports in the Northeast. And large Peruvian programs. That's an area where is really a hot spot right now for the produce industry. Some great commodities coming out of Peru. Specifically, we deal with some blueberries and onions and other commodities. But that supply chain, again, that's even more dynamic. Now it's on a boat. It's got to get in to the U.S. and get released by customs. And so having all of that figured out, we run into a lot of people where they're from other countries and they don't even know where to begin. They have a great commodity, but how do they even get it into the U.S. and then figuring out how to get it to the end consumer or, the retailers of the world is really challenging. So having a partner like Sunrise that can say, hey, whether you grow your product domestically and it's coming from California or the Pacific Northwest, Texas, crossing the border from Mexico, or it's coming in on containers, having every leg of that figured out. And that's really what we bring to the table is, we can grab the container at the port, bring it to our facility, offload it, and then we offer a lot of other services like bagging, ripening for avocados. There's avocados is something that, as a 38-year-old, the first time I had any type of avocado was in guacamole in my Spanish class, and I think 10th or 11th grade. We were at that age, Chad, when they were kind of introduced to America. It's wild to see where that's come in 2 decades. I'm glad that you brought that up about your additional services, or the things that kind of separate your company as a unique partner for folks. So let's talk about that maybe a little bit more deeply. I mean, for some people, it's like, okay, is there a difference? Like how in logistics suppliers? I mean, this stuff is highly regulated. You're talking about transportation and food. So where's the room for variance here? Since this is a super regulated industry, wouldn't everyone just be the same? Yeah. It's an interesting industry. Our culture in the produce industry is very hands-on, very, just a doer mentality, get it done. And that comes from the farming and those types of things. And so it's interesting to see how some people accomplish getting their product across the country or into the retailers or whoever they're selling it to. But I think what really sets Sunrise apart is, one very large thing is our sister company, Sunrise Transport, very large private fleet. And that's uncommon, right? To have that large private fleet. We range around 110 to 115 drivers, all specialized equipment. So, whether we're delivering to a warehouse or we're delivering to a retailer, we've got lift gates, all different sizes of trailers, but that makes us really unique. But then when you pair that with our brokerage authority, so even a license that allows us to take customers' freight, and we're the middle person between our customer and then a carrier that may have a lane that's going somewhere that, we want to get that produce. So we have both pieces there and makes us really dynamic. And then what probably sets us apart the most is, again, I mentioned all the services that we have in our warehouse for, people specific to produce. But the other big one is LTL, which is less than truckload. And for people that don't know that, I know you mentioned to me that you actually know what that means, which is great. But it means that you're buying a pallet space on a trailer. Right. So in produce, it's not often that you're selling an entire truckload of product. You might only sell 2 or 3 pallets. And you see it's way too common that people just go, well, we don't have a great LTL solution. Someone that will say, hey, you can have this one pallet space on this trailer for a certain amount. So they end up purchasing what is considered a full truckload, which is you're buying that entire trailer space. And that's much more expensive.
Yeah, so you got to cube it out for efficiencies though, right?
Cube it out. So you're a real produce person. But yeah, I mean, that's what makes us unique. Our LTL network and our LTL capability is really unique. I've not experienced anything like it across the country in my 7 years. So we're proud of that. Right. And the other piece is we want to keep building upon that to be able to service customers. So it just really puts us in a unique scenario. We have the technology to do it, and we want to continue to invest in technology to really push the produce industry to the next level.
So you say technology, and I'm reminded of my like the way that I describe the cube it out to people is like, imagine, this is super layman's, but it's a consumer facing podcast. So I would compare the cube it out concept, folks, to a really good game of Tetris. You don't want to have a bunch of vacant spaces. You want to cube it out. You want to get solid lines in your Tetris game the same way you want to fill up that truck without any gaps or holes. So I learned really I learned that at the desk at Indie Fruit. I mean, I personally wasn't in charge of a lot of drayage or anything like that, but I certainly worked closely with folks where they were fully focused on cubing out those trucks. It makes a big difference in efficiencies and price.
Absolutely. Yeah. You talk about getting it. Everybody knows that. You go to the grocery store, and how can a container of strawberries be that price? Mm-hmm. Well, sit down for a little bit and I'll explain exactly how. Mm-hmm. And then I think you'll be shocked that they are that price and they're not even more expensive.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the truth? So I mentioned in the intro, Chad, and we haven't really talked much about the month or the day, the minute the world changed in mid-March with COVID-19 pandemic, and how, as far as I'm concerned, that's when people really realized how important the supply chain was. When I look back on the way our industry responded, especially when I compare our goods, fresh produce, to other consumer products, many of which are part of the grocery shopping industry, the grocery industry as well, food and bev. My goodness, hats off to our logistics professionals and our supply chain, our global supply chain, because we didn't really miss a beat. And, food security is national security. So yes, of course, it comes down to, at a micro level, we got to fulfill these POs and keep business operations going. But at a macro level, it's much more important, because food security is national security. And it kind of got shoved in our face as consumers when the pandemic hit. When there was, people were stockpiling, when we had this seismic shift where food service was shut down and we had all of this food in the supply chain that was at, whether it was sitting in warehouses headed to restaurants, or sitting in warehouses or refrigeration units at restaurants, or if it was at the grower level and it was grown and packed and ready for restaurant use. I mean, and our audience, if they're following along in all that they do, they understand the differences here. I mean, you're talking about, you go to the grocery store and you buy a 5-pound bag of onions maybe, not a 50-pound bale of onions that are colossal size. You know, like there's a big difference in how we pack things for food service or chefs and how we pack things for household cooks. And you know, so I'd love to just talk freely about what the month of March and really the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has, you know, just how it's affected you and what it's taught you, or what you want folks to know about it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say we have a lot of work ahead of us. Right. Yeah. So we can talk about what's happened over the past 5 or 6 months, but we really need to stay focused on what's going to happen over the next 6 months as we head into the fall and the winter. But again, the leadership of our organization has just been so strong and transparent. We have roughly 800 employees in the family of companies, and a large portion of those employees work in our warehouse or drivers in our fleet, and they're essential workers. It's so important that they're able to get to work. They're comfortable in the environment that they're coming to work in. They feel safe. And I think there's just a lot of organizations across the country that felt the pinch because their culture wasn't there when something like a pandemic hits. And you've got to be tight. Everything's got to be in line, and then you've got to be nimble. When you have 800 employees, it's hard to be nimble. And if you don't have great leadership at the top that's transparent and communicating, and I think that's the thing, if I look back, that I'm proudest of, and what has really set us apart and is a reason, you know, it's a reason to partner with us, is we've been consistent, we've been stable, we've been transparent with our customers to talk about what we're doing, because their commodity is in our warehouse. They still own it, but it's sitting in our warehouse. So it's very important for them to know how we're handling it and how are we going to keep their product safe so that they can continue to sell it and keep their businesses open. But yeah, I think that, you know, that stability we've had as an organization has been awesome. We didn't shut down. We did send people home. A lot of office staff have been working from home. So I'm an expert in Teams all of a sudden, but it's been, you know, really good from that standpoint. But our essential workers, because we were able to keep the facility safe and secure, we've had minimal cases, and we've been able to stay open and keep things churning for our customers. And then really, I would just add to that, our parent company, Four Seasons Produce, they've got to get those commodities into the store. So we were every piece of it because we're so dynamic as a family of companies. The wholesaling portion of our organization has been there for their customers. And we received so many positive notes from customers saying, we don't know what we would have done. And we've heard the horror stories of the wholesalers that have fallen completely on their face, and they're not able to get product into the stores for people that are stuck at home and aren't eating on the road as much.
Right. No, it's really fascinating. And, you know, I do think that you know, when I think back to the day it really felt real for us. And for me, it was like right after St. Patrick's Day, you know, it was like that Monday or Tuesday when I was like, whoa, we really are shutting down and kids aren't going back to school. And oh my goodness, we need to go get food. We don't know, you know, and so we stocked up and all that. And I will say, I've been so impressed with the fact that, you know, I can walk into the produce department and get everything on my list. I might have to, due to demand and the fluidity of the supply chain right now, I do feel like we're pretty much, I feel like it's pretty much normalized from a supply chain perspective at this point. But in March and April, not so much. But I really never was at the point where I couldn't get what I wanted. You know, I might have to source something, like if I had organic or conventional on the list and one was out, I would go with the other. Or I might buy the value added item, such as, you know, something that's pre-cut, pre-washed, ready to eat versus the bulk item, or buy a bagged product instead of a bulk product, etc. But at the end of the day, I could pretty much get apples to zucchini, whatever I wanted in the produce department. And, you can't say that really about any other department within the grocery retail sector. You can't say it. Yeah. I still can't get, I mean, what the heck's going on with the supply chain for Clorox wipes? I still can't get those, you know? And so,
toilet paper?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I went to get napkins the other day, like just basic dinner napkins, limited. I wanted to buy 2 packages. I've got boys, like we need napkins and I could only buy 1. And so little things like that, you know, I do bring it up because yes, it's a testament to our growers and their commitment to the production, but it's a huge testament to your stage of the supply chain too, Chad, the logistics. And that is, and it kind of comes back to what I said, I learned it in episode 41. Retailing comes down to two things, folks: marketing and logistics. So it's been a joy chatting with you more today, Chad, and learning more about logistics and supply chain. It was long overdue to have an episode that's focused on this topic. So please let us know what's next for Sunrise Logistics and where folks can go to learn more about your company.
Yeah, I would say what's next is, we want to continue. Like I said, we want to be stable. So stay stable through this year, but we are having conversations about investing in other areas. So that's, I think that's the big next for us. And as a family of companies that each has a unique service, we're coming together to say, all right, if we were to invest in another area, how would each part of the company benefit from that? And could they run a profitable operation? So that's really dynamic. Those are really interesting conversations, but dynamic is the right word for that. And, but again, having a strong leadership group, we're able to come together and have those conversations. So that's really exciting to be a part of a growth oriented company. That really comes from our founder, David Hollinger. He's always, what's next? And I like that. That's maybe not for everybody, but we are an organization that's constantly pushing forward. So again, investing in people and technology and processes is what we really want to do at Sunrise. Yeah, for more information, just hit our website. We actually, we just invested in a brand new website this year that we're really proud of.
Yeah, it's a great website. SunriseLogisticsInc.com.
That's it. Yeah, and then we've done a little bit of investment in LinkedIn, on our LinkedIn page, so you can go there and see. We've really tried to put some information on the Sunrise Logistics LinkedIn page that gives you a feel for our culture. It's the most valuable thing we have, and we have a beautiful facility, again, in Ephrata, Pennsylvania. But every time we bring a potential customer here, an existing customer that's not been to our facility, that's the one thing that feels very different. As soon as you walk in the front door, it just feels different than a lot of places in the produce industry. And we're really proud of that, and we're really thankful to the Hollinger family that they continue to invest in a great environment for our employees.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So, Chad, we have a tradition on our podcast, and before we say our final goodbyes, I first want to just thank you. I want to thank the whole team at Sunrise Logistics for their hard work. Everyone in the produce industry that's involved in logistics. Hey, this episode's for you. We're really thankful for what you do, and warm gratitude, of course, to everyone at the Four Seasons family of companies. But I just want to emphasize to our listeners, this really is what you do, the transportation of a highly perishable food item like fresh produce, which we know is the most nutrient dense food available. So bite for bite, this is what we need to be eating the most of. Our products solve so many of the problems in households that we are facing if people just eat more of them. So it really is, when I say we're a mission driven industry, that's really what it's all rooted in. And logistics empowers it all. You guys keep it moving. I live in the Midwest. This is not a hub for fruit and vegetable production. By any means. And certainly, like so many regions of the United States, due to our climate, if it weren't for quality logistics, I would be without so much of what I love about the produce department. If we didn't have that good logistics to bring the food to where I live, so it's accessible 365 days a year. So that being said, thank you so much. But hey, the tradition is you get the final word, you get the last goodbye, you get to you sign off with our listeners. So I'm going to throw the mic back to you to close out the show. But truly, thank you so much, Chad.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm a proud father, 2 children. Prepare your fruits and vegetables for your kids so that they eat them. It's amazing how many more grapes your kids will eat if you take them out of the bag, you wash them, and you put them in a bowl for them. So, eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, I guess is what I would go with. But then, get them to your kids. Let's get away from fast food. Let's eat healthier. Let's be healthier, and teach the next generation how to do that.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.